Vecna lives. Stranger Things has been one of Netflix's biggest and best exports since the first time Will Byers wound up in the Upside Down, and the town of Hawkins has been hit by several fearsome foes thus far. The Demogorgon, the Demodogs, the Mind Flayer, all of which have left a lasting impression on viewers and popular culture worldwide, but none have dominated social media with anywhere near the same level of prowess as Season 4's main antagonist, Vecna. Whether we are talking the Party or the Hellfire Club, Dungeons & Dragons has very much been at the heart of Stranger Things and a major influence on its creators, the Duffer Brothers. So how do you level up those influences after Season 3's dip in quality? You bring in one of the most infamous D&D villains ever, and from every key plot detail and spoiler I'm going to discuss in this video, one thing for certain is that Vecna is an incredibly large dose of nightmare fuel. How exactly? Well, he is literally fueled by nightmares. Vecna's preferred method of attack is a psychological one, similar to the Mind Flayer. In fact, later in Volume 1 of Season 4, it's described that the Demogorgon was like the Mind Flayer's foot soldier, while Vecna is like his 5-star general. His chosen methods of attack are a cause of Stranger Things 4 being the most horrifying edition of the show yet. A lot of influence from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is apparent here. Vecna's physical and vocal design are very much akin to Freddy Krueger, probably closer to the Jackie Earle Haley incarnation if we are being honest. But on top of that, we have a main character witnessing a girl's death and getting accused of murder, characters slipping between the real world and nightmare worlds of Vecna's design, and if you die in one of them, you die in real life. So all in all, some very fitting nods here, given the nostalgia canon Stranger Things fires at you directly between the eyes. However, don't let these horror throwbacks fool you. Vecna stands out of his own accord with some truly frightening, tense and gruesome sequences, on top of being a dark wizard that pretty much lives in a Hammer horror movie castle. His chosen methods of killing people are downright one of the cruelest things I've seen in a show of this kind. Firstly, Vecna gets under his target's skin by making them slip into dreamscapes, but the true nightmare fuel element to this is that Vecna tailor-makes them to the person. He locates and exploits people's bad memories or fears to get the optimum reaction from them. This is because Vecna feasts on fear, so by being bespoke while on the offense, he gets a bigger meal and grows stronger as a result. Some of our examples include Chrissy, one of the attendees of Lenora Hills High School, who is the first person to be intimidated by Vecna. First, she has spooky premonitions in a toilet cubicle, then later sees spiders crawling out of a clock face in the middle of the woods, followed by visions of an undead version of her mother sewing, with her dad's eyes and mouth having been sewn shut. Another student, Fred, is teased and tormented by a police officer for being involved in a car crash that caused a fatality, before seeing undead versions of funeral attendees in the woods that call him a murderer. Right away you can see that Vecna has a pitch black soul, if he even has a soul at all. He delights in playing mind games with his prey and is able to customize perspectives simply to receive maximum fear. That's pretty horrendous as it is, but then we see how he actually kills. Vecna reaches out his elongated claws and raises his victims, making them levitate, and then bends and breaks their bodies, bones crunching and popping as they are snapped like twigs before the eyes are enveloped into their sockets, leaving a mangled, decimated corpse at the end.
Jesus Christ!
Yep, I suppose if you want to kill a kid, that'd do the trick. So now we are aware of what Vecna is capable of, how powerful he is, and the fact he has zero remorse. It's only a matter of time before our emotional threads are jostled in a tug of war when Max is targeted. In Dear Billy, now considered to be one of the show's greatest episodes, we know that Max is Vecna's next intended target. The group knows about the other killings and what exactly happens to the victims by this point, on top of just how powerful Vecna is, and there's a very small window of time before the worst happens. The nightmare fuel factor here for me is Max's response to the situation. She handwrites letters to all of her closest friends and acquaintances to be read after her death. She's pretty much 99% certain that in less than 24 hours she's going to die. Now, if the kids in Stranger Things are anything, they're optimistic. They've won battles by fighting head on against otherworldly foes Max from and in another dimension, and by this point Max has fought to help save the world twice. But Vecna is that overpowered and fearsome, she accepts her fate early. That level of bravery and hope is totally lost in the knowledge of what she's up against. I find this terrifying, knowing that despite being such a young age with your whole life ahead of you, there's a scarily realistic chance that you're not going to see tomorrow and are going to die a brutal, remorseless, painful death. Max's instinctive reaction here to being targeted puts Vecna over massively as being a threat so great it's not even worth bothering trying to fight back. While in the dream world, Max herself has salt rubbed in her own wounds when Vecna takes the appearance of her stepbrother Billy, who was killed at the end of season 3. Since then, Max has been battling depression and going to counselling sessions, becoming much more of an outcast this time round. So for Vecna to present himself as her late brother, that's a vicious injection of hurt for both Max and the audience of Billy fans. By this point, a key plot detail arises wherein Nancy and Robin do some identity fraud in order to interview a locked up victim of Vecna's, Victor Creel, played by Robert Englund. There's another Elm Street nod if you were keeping score. While being questioned, Creel reveals the backstory of his family and how they were killed by Vecna, with his wife, daughter and son being afflicted with nightmarish visions and then being picked off with Creel as the only survivor, permanently damaging his eyes in order to save himself from further visions. How ghastly is that? Resorting to permanently damaging your eyes just to prevent Vecna from killing you. If that isn't nightmare fuel, I don't know what is. This Victor Creel story is of course flipped on its head in episode 7, which I'll cover shortly, but the crux of Creel's story is that we learn music has a psychological effect on the brain that can establish a link from one of Vecna's worlds back to your real body. This happens in perhaps the most talked about scene in the show ever, and one that skyrocketed Kate Bush back to the top of the charts. Running up that hill is able to bring Max back into her own body by the skin of her teeth, barely escaping her fate. So the frightening element here is that there's only one proven method of escaping Vecna, and even by utilizing it, you still have to get out of the dream world before being picked off. He doesn't really leave you with much of a chance of survival, increasing his threat level. Right then, back to the Creel storyline. So of course in episode 7 we learn that Vecna is number 1, the first test subject of the Hawkins lab experiments that also created 11. We discover that 1 was Victor Creel's son, so in fact Vecna didn't kill Creel's wife and children, 1 did. An evil child with a bloodlust and enormously powerful telekinesis who murders his own mother and sister and frames his father for the murders, all for his own enjoyment. In this mind-blowing climax to Series 4 Volume 1, Vecna's nightmare fuel levels are already beginning to peak. A telekinetic powerhouse that has killed and psychologically scarred people from a young age, including his own family, and winds up becoming the most spiteful, cruel, and powerful villain ever seen in the show. Heading into Volume 2, Stranger Things fans worldwide awaited with bated breath to see just what Vecna and his full tank of nightmare fuel were capable of next. Mega spoilers ahead for Volume 2 if you haven't already seen it, by the way. So here, Vecna/1/Henry Creel kicks off proceedings by targeting Nancy. However, he doesn't want to kill her, he simply shows her horrendous sights that get under her skin and then asks her to tell 11 about what she's seen. So the frightening setup here is that Vecna is able to play mind games with people, making Nancy believe that she's the next victim when really he just wants to put the shits up her and use her as a messenger to intimidate 11. This is a seriously cold move that further demonstrates his unforgiving attitudes. In Volume 2, Vecna is used pretty sparingly, but when he does appear, he takes center stage in the Nightmare Fuel vaults. Not only does he play with our lead character's emotions, but ours too, as Max didn't get away lightly last time. She's still on his list, and she knows it. So while hatching up a plan with the gang to lure Vecna in, Max openly admits her true feelings regarding her deepest, darkest thoughts towards herself and towards Billy, which leads Vecna to bitterly take on the likeness of Lucas to berate her. Lucas and Max's romantic interest has faced some jagged moments throughout Season 4, with the two of them still caring for each other, but not always seeing eye to eye, and here Vecna capitalizes on that and weaponizes it. Dick move, man. You know what else is a dick move? Yeah, you know where I'm going here. Because of his power and his army of bats, even when 11 is able to fight her way to push Vecna back and stun him, the deaths of both Eddie Munson and Max occur. Emotional damage aside here, yeah, this was pretty choking. Even in defeat, Vecna's influence can still ruin our beloved heroes. And it's only Eleven reaching deep inside herself that is able to bring Max back from death. But even being dead only a minute means that Vecna's plan to kill 4 people in order to open 4 gates to Hawkins is able to commence. And within less than a minute, the destruction this rages on Hawkins is like hell's opened up. The people of Hawkins evacuate the town and donation centers are opened up to help people, all from a single minute of Vecna's plan coming to fruition. However, even when being taken out with Molotovs, the real Vecna flees and, despite being severely hurt, will consent his presence. As the revelation comes out in the finale that for the entire show, all of the previous Upside Down monsters have been somewhat under Vecna's control. And to me, that is definitely nightmare fuel, in the knowledge that the deaths of many great characters and nearly destroying the world on multiple occasions spawn from the mind of Vecna himself. He's not done yet, and in Stranger Things 5 he will return to do battle once again. Vecna is one of the most iconic baddies in recent memory and is one hell of a large dose of nightmare fuel that rightly takes his place in our Hall of Fame. What did you think of Vecna and of Stranger Things 4 as a whole? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, Ghoul Gang, I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls. If you want to avoid the chimes of Vecna and keep your arms and legs straight as an arrow, why not support the channel with a cheeky sub? If you do, you'll be 100% bitchin'.